Today, we're diving into one of the shortest, but maybe one of the most powerful chapters in the entire Quran, Surah Ikhlas. It's just 4 lines, but think of it as a kind of touchstone, a tool to test the purity of faith itself.
So, let me tell you a quick story. Imagine a family that has this beautiful gold necklace, passed down for generations. It's their prized possession. But one day, they take it to a goldsmith, who tests it and has to break the news. I'm sorry, this isn't gold. It's just brass. It looked real, felt real, but it wasn't the real thing.
Well, in that exact same way, the Quran gives us its own touchstone. It's a chapter so clear, so precise, that you can hold your own beliefs up against it and ask, is this pure gold or is it just shiny brass? And that touchstone is Surah Ikhlas. Now, this brings up a couple of massive questions, right? First, why was this specific 4-line chapter even revealed? What was going on that made it so necessary? And second, how on earth can something so short be considered equal to 1/3 of the entire Quran? Let's unpack these mysteries, and to do that, we have to start with the world this chapter was born into.
To really get the answers, we gotta rewind a bit. We need to understand the problem before we can truly appreciate the solution. So let's take a look at the context for this revelation. So, the Makkah of that time was, you could say, a chaotic marketplace of beliefs. You had widespread idolatry everywhere. You had some Christians who believed that Jesus was the Son of God. You had polytheists, the mushrik, who believed angels were the daughters of God. I mean, there was just this deep, profound confusion about who or what God actually was.
Because of all this confusion, people would come up to the Prophet Muhammad and ask these very physical questions. They'd say, tell us about your Lord's lineage. What's his family tree? What's he made of? Is it gold, silver, iron? They were trying to grasp the concept of God using terms they could understand, human terms, material terms.
And it was right in the middle of all these questions, all this confusion, that a direct answer came down from the heavens. This wasn't just another opinion or another philosophy. This was a divine definition, a final answer.
And this chapter wasn't just a temporary fix for the people of that time. No, it was revealed to settle the question once and for all, to give humanity a clear, permanent, and totally unambiguous definition of God.
All right, so now let's get into the good stuff. Let's actually decode these 4 powerful lines and see how they manage to accomplish so much in so few words. It all starts with a command. Say, He is Allah, the One. Pretty simple, right? But the magic, the absolute core of it, is in that last word for one.
See, this is fascinating. The word used isn't wahid, which is the normal Arabic word for the number 1, like 1, 2, 3. The word used is ahad, and ahad means something totally different. It means the uniquely one, someone who is absolutely singular, indivisible, with no parts, no partners, no equals. It's a concept of oneness that is completely unique to him.
Then the second verse builds on that idea. It says, Allahu Samad. This means Allah the self-sufficient.
So what does as-Samad mean? It means he is the ultimate master who needs absolutely nothing and no one, but everything and everyone needs him. We depend on him for the air we breathe, the water we drink, for our very next heartbeat, even for the law of gravity to work. He is completely and totally independent, while all of creation is completely and totally dependent.
Verse 3 goes on to directly tackle those questions people had about God's family. It says, He neither begets nor is born.
This is so precise. It's like a surgical correction of those old beliefs. To the idea that God could have children, it says, He neither begets. And to the idea that God could have parents or a family tree, it says, nor is He born. It completely removes God from our human ideas of family and lineage. After all, if He had a child, His essence would be divided, and He couldn't be Ahad, the indivisibly one.
And then, finally, the chapter closes with this powerful, all-encompassing statement, and there is none comparable to Him.
That word kufuan, it means an equal, a match, or even something that you could compare Him to. This last line basically slams the door shut on any attempt to compare God to anything we know or can even imagine. He is in a category all by Himself, utterly, completely unique.
Okay, so we've seen how these 4 lines build this perfect, airtight definition of God. But that still leaves our second big mystery. How can this tiny chapter be worth 1/3 of the whole Quran? Let's solve that now.
Well, scholars explain that the entire message of the Quran really revolves around 3 main themes. You've got law, what's right and wrong.
You've got history, the stories of prophets and nations, and then you have the third massive theme, Tawheed, the absolute oneness of God.
And this is where it all clicks. Surah Ikhlas is pure, 100% distilled Tawheed. It doesn't talk about law, it doesn't tell a historical story. It is exclusively and perfectly focused on defining that one core pillar, the oneness of God. So because it so perfectly captures one of those three foundational themes, it carries the weight of 1/3 of the Quran's entire message. Pretty amazing, right?
But you know, knowing all this in our heads is one thing. Really feeling it is something else entirely. The real power here isn't just reciting the words, it's about letting that meaning sink in and change you. And I don't think there's a better example of this than the story of Hazrat Bilal. He was a companion of the Prophet, and he was being brutally tortured under the blazing hot desert sun, a huge rock crushing his chest. His torturers were screaming at him to give up his faith, and his only reply, the only sound he made, was Ahad, Ahad, the one, the one. For him, these weren't just words. It was his reality. It was the source of his strength. And that's exactly why we should never treat this chapter like some kind of shortcut just to get through our prayers faster. There was another companion who loved this chapter so much, he put it in every single one of his prayers. And for that love, he was promised paradise. We should try to read it with that kind of connection. So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. The next time you find yourself reciting these words, Qul huwallahu ahad, are you just going to be speaking from memory, or are you going to be holding up that divine touchstone and really testing the pure, solid gold of your own faith?